In this video I'm going to show you some basics in Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2018. Okay, so if you watch my previous setup video, you have now got a sequence created, so we're ready to begin editing. So first things first, let's create a bin and get some footage imported in. A bin is basically a folder. So if you just come down to the bottom of your project window, you'll notice a little what looks like a folder. If you click that, it will create a new bin. So let's just name that one footage, and this is where we can import all of our video clips into that folder. If I right click that, I can then select import. You then want to navigate to your folder structure that you will have created. So on the desktop, I've got my test project. In my Premiere Pro folder, I've got test footage. I'm then going to select all my video clips, which if you click the first clip, hold down shift and select the last clip, it'll highlight all of them. Click open and they will start to import. So they imported pretty quickly. You'll then notice that they are inside that footage bin that you created. So you can click the little arrow downwards and it'll open or it'll close. So they're nice and organized within that bin. You might want to create multiple bins. It's always good practice to organize your footage. So I would personally rename your files before importing them into Premiere. Or definitely organizing them into bins. So if you shoot on different days, called one folder day 1, another folder day 2, or if you want to organize it via locations or night and day, any way that you find convenient or useful for you, I would organize it. But just for this video, I'm just leaving them as they are in here. So you've imported in your clips. Like I did, I right clicked and I selected import. You can also go to file and select import in here as well, and you can then go for your file structure again and select those files that you want, or you can even just go to your folder and literally drag and drop the video clip into the project window and it'll import that way. Completely up to you. So if we double click a clip, you'll notice it opens up in the source window in the top left hand corner. The source window is where you can preview clips, you can do little minor edits, you can scrub through it to find the ideal location that you want to where you want to make edits. I choose to do minor edits up in this window. So to do that, I scrub to a location where I want the edit to begin. So for example, when Tom has put his pen to paper, I want the video to start there. So if I just select the mark in button tab just down here, or I can press I on the keyboard, I'm basically telling Premiere that I want this video clip to start here. I'm then going to scrub through. And I know after he's tapped the pen a couple of times, I want the video to stop, this clip to stop. So then I want to mark it out. Again, you can select the button there, or you can press O on your keyboard. You'll then notice a highlighted selection of your whole video clip. This is non-destructive, so any of these edits don't actually affect your main video clips. They just affect them in Premiere. They don't actually affect the physical files. So I've made that selection. I can then grab them. So if you left click and hold the mouse, you'll notice a little grabby hand comes. You can then drag that clip down to the timeline and then release. That places that clip on the timeline. If you press spacebar on your keyboard, you will notice it starts to play, or you can press the play button just under the program window to play the video through. Pressing play will play everything that is on your timeline. So your timeline is where you construct your edit. You take all your clips and you put them together to create a final video edit. So I did minor edits up in the source window. You can also drag clips directly onto the timeline. So I'm just going to scrub through, find a different shot. Okay, so shot 2 is from a different angle. I'm going to drag that one directly into the timeline. That does the whole clip from start to end, from when you hit first record and from when you hit record again to stop recording. It does the whole clip. You'll notice there is little tiny grey what look like triangles on each corner. That is basically just showing you it's the full clip that you have put on. So again, you can use this playhead to scrub through the clips and they will show up in your program window up here. You can then make edits down here. using some of these tools. So I will quickly show you the razor tool. Again, shortcuts are ideal. C on the keyboard will jump straight to the razor tool, and you'll notice currently if I'm not over a clip it won't let me do anything. It has a little red line through the little razor tool. However, as soon as I come over a clip, that red line disappears and I am okay to edit. So I'm just going to hover over, I'm going to click, and that will create a cut. If you then want to jump back to your selection tool, it's V on the keyboard if you like shortcuts. You can then separate the two clips. So like I did earlier with this clip with up in the source window where I chopped the start and the end off it, you could do that in your timeline. So remember, this is non-destructive, so you can undo things. If you press Ctrl Z on the keyboard, that will undo things, and you can step back and undo any errors that you may have made or any cuts that you don't like. If you're wanting to just snip off the start and end of a clip, you could press play and start watching the clip that you've dragged onto the timeline. When you're ready. So I know that I want I want it to start just before Tom tears up this bit of paper or screws it up. So I want to get rid of this bit of clip here. I can use obviously the razor tool to cut that off and then delete this little bit, or you'll notice this little red marker appearing when I hover near the edge of the clip. If I just grab that and just drag it, it'll crop it down. So it just deletes that bit of clip that I no longer want. I can then scrub through to the end of the clip, and I know that I want it as he throws it away. You'll see the bit of paper has bounced out of the bin, so using the keyboard arrow keys, I'm just going to shot back a couple of shots, and then that's perfect because it looks like he's just angrily thrown the bit of paper into the bin. So again, I don't need any of the rest of the clip, so I'm just going to cut that off just by dragging it. I've then just got that little sample clip. I'm going to then move that clip up to the other so they flow nicely from one to the other. It ends quite abruptly. Obviously this is quite a rushed edit. I can add more clips. So that's just how you make a basic cut. You also have your audio levels here, which shows how loud it is. If it's not very loud, you can lift them. So that's that. Right, so say you want to add a transition or an effect. You have got the effects tab up here, but if you don't want to adjust how your layout of windows are, if you click the little arrows here, you then also have effects here. So this is your effects menu. You can scroll through. You've got audio transitions, video effects, video transitions. You got some Lumetri presets, which are like color correction presets, and you have some audio effects. So if we go into video transitions, there's a whole host of different transitions. What I would say is when you're first using Premiere, just have a play around with these, drag them on, see how they go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a basic transition to this clip. You'll notice how I zoomed in there is there's a little grey bar. If you grab the little circle at the end, you can zoom in and you can zoom out just by dragging left and right. So I want to zoom into where the cut is. I'm going to move the playhead to where the cut is, and I'm going to zoom in just so I can see it a bit clearly. I'm then going to go over to my effects window now over here, and I'm going to look for, we've got video effects. I'm going to go for dissolve, and I'm just going to go for a basic cross dissolve. So that is for fading one clip into another. So I'm just going to drag that over, and it will apply a basic cross dissolve. The cross dissolve can help a cut be slightly less harsh. All of these transitions and effects should only be used if you deem them necessary within your project. Don't feel the need to add a transition to every cut you make. A lot of films and shows and videos will just naturally cut from one clip to the other. So that's how you apply a basic dissolve. You just drag and drop it. If for some reason it won't let you drag and drop it over, maybe if you've got those little grey triangles and you've got a full length clip onto your timeline, it might not let you add a cross dissolve. That is basically the way a cross dissolve works. Is it takes a sample of both clips and kind of crosses them over, so they slightly fade in from one and out of the other, crossing the two clips over. And if you're using a full clip unedited, it's got nothing to cross into basically, and it will just start to duplicate frames, which is something you don't really want. So that's how you add a basic dissolve. I will quickly show you how to add some other basic effects. So I'm just going to zoom out again, and I am going to go to video effects, because this is something that you might want to use quite a lot. There's quite a few different video effects, but quite a lot of you might play around with color correction. So if I click the little triangle, there's loads of different types of color correction to use, but what I generally go for is lumetri color. So if you then select that, drag it, you'll notice there's a little hand with a little kind of stop sign saying it won't really work grayed out. As soon as I go over a clip, that'll change, and there's a little plus sign and I can let go of it. One thing to notice, the little FX symbol has now gone purple. This one is still grey because it's got no effects attached to it. This one's gone purple because it's shown that I've added a video effect to my video clip. You'll notice scrubbing through hasn't done anything, and sometimes when you drag quite a lot of these, not just color correction, it won't actually do anything when you first drag it on. If you double click it, however, you'll notice it opens up in the source window, and again you have effects controls. Here you can adjust those effects. So you'll notice you've got basic motion, so you can move video clips around within your actual main program window up here. So if you want text moving in or credits rolling, this is where you'd do it. You'd create a graphic, you'd import it in, and then you'd come to motion and you'd get it to move around your screen. Also, if you wanted split screen, this is where you can kind of create that too. So what we're looking at anyway is the lumetri color that I've applied. So here you can do basic correction, creative curves, secondary highs, keys, lows, and saturation you can apply within here. So I'm going to go to basic correction. And here, this is where you would probably play around with some of your footage, your exposure. If your footage is a bit dark, you might want to up the exposure. You'll notice how my video is getting lighter as I pull this up. You do get a preview of what's happening in your program window. If I just left that, that is how the video would look, and obviously that's not good. I just did that by dragging the number left and right, selecting it. You can also type in for more precise. So I'm going to just select 0 to put that back how it was, because that's fine. Saturation, if you want to bring a bit of colour, make the colour pop a bit. Maybe it's looking a bit dull, or if you want to make things black and white, make the saturation 0. You want to really get the colours to pop, drag them up, and it will pop the colours a bit. I'm just going to again leave that at 0 because I don't want to do anything. There's loads of different effects of colour correction you can do here. You can mix around with the highs, shadows, whites, and the contrast, and that's all through lumetri color. So I've just made that 0, so that's made that black and white. If you want to see what the video looked like before you applied the effects, you can just click this little effects toggle here, and it will show you what it looked like before you applied it. So it's basically just gone from colour to black and white. If you don't want this effect anymore on your video, you can just select it and click delete on your keyboard, and it will delete it off. And then your effects, you'll notice again on your timeline, it has gone purple. So that's basically how you make a basic cut. You move things around on your sequence. You apply effects. So another big one is how you add graphics. So graphics are like text on the screen. So if you go to the graphics tab on your top of your windows and select, new layer is no longer there, so I'm just going to click into my timeline and try that again. There you go, graphics, new layer allows you to select text. So if you select text, it will then appear straight away as a new layer on your video timeline. You'll notice that it's jumped on top of your current video clip that you have on your timeline and showing in your program window. These are your video tracks. You can have multiple tracks, so you can layer them. Imagine stacked bits of paper, and you can have video clips on top of each other. You can do the same with audio, so you've got audio tracks here. It sets up with just 3, but you can create more. If you right click, you can select add tracks, you can add more video tracks, you can add more audio tracks, whatever you want. You might do this if you want multiple bits of text showing up on your screen, or if you want to have a bit of superimposition where you have one video clip kind of showing over the top of another one, where you've maybe slightly faded one out so it's showing over the top. So I've created that. It's added onto video track 2. And it says new text layer. I'm actually going to move that to the end of my clips, and it will then show up on a black screen. Here, this is where you could maybe create credits. If I double click that, I can then begin to edit it. So I could type anything. So this could be test project as a title, so you could have this at the start of your video, or test project and then maybe the credits, so you could add who worked on the video, who your actors were. It's always good to write who created the track that you created, just the artist and the song name. It's always worth crediting the artist. So you can type in, I've typed in test project using the text tool. If you then go on the selection tool, you can move that anywhere you like on the screen. And then over here in your effects controls, you've got text now. So where Lumetri color once was on my other video clip, because I've got my text layer selected, you'll notice here it says test project 1 graphic. I can then go in the text bit and I can change the font. So this, if you download and install fonts, you can select them. I'd always suggest trying to use a unique font. Don't ever go for like Times New Roman or Arial. It doesn't really add anything to your project. If you go on DaFont, you can download some really cool free fonts, and you can get a tutor to just install them for you on the computer. So I'm just going to select, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Let's go for, no, I don't want that. That's awful. It really doesn't matter, so I'm going to just go back to Minion Pro. You can change whether you want it bold, regular, anything like that. You can then also change the position of where it is within your frame. You can change the scale and size of it. You can add rotation, anything you want. Again, I'll just Control Z then to undo what I just did. Remember what I mentioned about motion? This is where you can choose to get it to move across your screen up and down. So say you want it to scroll like credits, I've just dragged this right hand side set of numbers down and it's off the screen. I'm going to quickly show you how to create something like credits. So if I move the playhead to the start of that clip, which you can do by using the arrow keys, up and down arrow keys will jump to cuts. So I'm just going to go to that arrow key, and that will go to the start of my graphics. I'm then going to go on the position on motion. If you click the stopwatch, that basically toggles a little keyframe, and you can just see it just about there, basically saying I want the text at this time to be there on the screen. However, by the end of this clip, I want it to be off screen. So I'm going to drag these numbers the opposite way until they are off the screen. They're off screen. Now if I move the playhead and play that back, you'll notice that the credits then scroll, so it just says test project. Nice and easy. That's how you create credits. Keyframes, you only have to click the stopwatch the first time when you create your first one. After that, as soon as you make adjustments to the numbers, it'll automatically create the keyframes. If you want this clip to last longer, say they're scrolling too fast, you can, you know how we edited the clips earlier, we trimmed them down using that little red tool there. We can then drag this out so they last longer. Again, if you double click it, go to effects controls, you'll notice the keyframe is now in the middle. Let's just drag that keyframe to the end of the clip, and it will scroll slightly slower when we press play. Press the space bar on the keyboard. Let's just test that again. So obviously this is far too slow. You'd probably want to make this faster, or if you've got quite a few bits of quite a few credits, you might like it that slow. But that's basically how you create text graphics. Just quickly, I'll show you the audio. So if you've got your audio tab, you've got your audio tracks just down here. If you use the little, you see there's a bar here, you can just drag that down. It just makes it a bit bigger so you can see your wave format a little bit more. So I'm going to scroll over to that. I'm going to zoom in a bit. You have a little grey bar here, which is where you can lift to raise your audio levels. You'll see it's going up in decibels all the way up to 6, so that makes it full, or you can drag it down to make it lower, to make it slightly quieter. Generally you'll find audio tracks, when you add a song to it, will be really loud, so you want to pull that down so it doesn't completely drown out maybe the dialogue that you've got in your video that you've recorded. You can also right click and you can go to audio gain, and you can adjust it here as well, so you can lift it up to make it louder or quieter. One final thing I will show you is basically how you fade out audio, because this is a big one that a lot of people ask for. You can go to the effects tab and you can go to, let's close video effects. If you go to audio transitions, crossfade, You can put one of these on and it will start to fade out the audio. You can also, using the pen tool, so you've got your tools here, pen tool, you create keyframes, a lot like we did with the graphic, but you can do it on the timeline on your audio. So if I just select it, say I want it to start here, so at this point I want it to begin fading out, and I'm going to click right at the end of the clip, and then if I select that keyframe and drag it down, it will fade. So then the audio will fade out. And just like that, the audio is faded out. That is how you create a basic fade in audio. One final thing, to separate audio, a lot of people want to just keep video tracks and delete the camera's audio. If we go back to the selection tool, I'm going to select V on the keyboard and it selects it. If you hold the Alt button down on your keyboard, so make sure I've got no clip selected, hold Alt down, and then you can select the audio track. It just selects the audio track. It doesn't select the video track. So you can then delete it. So I click delete and it deletes it. I'm going to zoom out. That is some basics. There is obviously so much more that you can do in Premiere, which I may show you in some future videos. But for now, that should get you going perfectly. Thank you.